I read through the Restoring Internet Freedom proposal, and a lot of it doesn't even make sense. So I took some notes, and I'm going to read through them all, and maybe we can make sense of this. Okay. First things that they're kind of saying is that investment in broadband networks has declined because of the Title II. They don't really cite any sources. Okay, but it's just an introduction. Maybe they'll do it later. Many good paying jobs were lost as a result of these pullbacks. I want to know what they are. Also propose to reinstate the determination that mobile broadband internet access service is not a commercial mobile service. What? Well, what is it then? Because if you ask me what that is, what mobile internet is, I would say it's a commercial mobile service. So, confused. It says Section 3, this is a quote, Section 3 of the Act defines an information service as the offering of a capability of generating, acquiring, storing, transforming, processing, retrieving, utilizing, and making available information via telecommunications, and includes electronic publishing, but does not include any use of any such capability for the management, control, or operation of a telecommunications system or the management of a telecommunications service. I'm trying to say that internet service providers are information services that generate, acquire, and store, transform, and process information, but depend on telecommunications services, but don't actually do the telecommunications services. What? If internet service providers aren't telecommunications, but rely on telecommunications, who is? That doesn't make sense. They're obviously not. I mean, they don't generate, acquire, store, transform, process, utilize, or anything information. They're I'm sorry. They were information services before? That doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry. Are we correct that offering internet access is precisely what makes the service capable of generating, acquiring, storing information to customers? It makes the service capable? Makes what service? Makes what service capable? It makes like websites capable of doing that stuff, because I don't know. You're the delivery service. You don't generate data. You don't store the data. You're the bus. We communicate between. That's what the internet is. It's communication between computers. And an internet service provider is doing the communications part, but not the generating. They don't actually generate the data. So that doesn't make any sense. Okay. Here's another one. It says that broadband users do not typically specify points between and among which information is sent online. The justification is that you're manipulating you're changing the data in the content because people don't specify the exact computer that they're connecting to? What? So it's the actual physical computer, because I'm not specifying the actual physical computer, it's not telecommunications? Okay, even if you want to nitpick, it's still wrong, because like telephones, you remember those? I dial a number, it connects me to a phone. I may have no idea where that phone is in the entire world, but it's that number. So I'm connecting to that number. So yeah, I am specifying a point. Okay, I'm just going to quote this. How can we possibly conclude that this is not a change in the content to use firewalls and other reasonable network management tools to shield broadband users from unwanted intrusions? no. If I need to look up a recipe, keeping my connection from being hijacked and sent to a virus-laden site is not changing the content. That's just protecting it. Wow, okay. There are 4,559 internet service providers now in the market. What? There are? Like in competition with each other? You need citations. You have these critical arguments and there's no citations. You're not providing any proof. Title II regulation has resulted in negative consequences for American consumers, including depressed broadband investment and reduced innovation because of increased regulatory burdens and regulatory uncertainty stemming from the rules adopted under Title II. Another one is U.S. Telecom specifically identified regulatory uncertainty as one of the causes of reduced investment. It's not the Title II, it's the vague rules. It's not the regulations that resulted in less investment, but the uncertainty of the regulations. Okay, if there's vague rules, then, well, we should define them. This is so confusing. Okay. And also reinstating the private mobile service classification of mobile broadband internet access service. Given the apparent historical success of the wireless marketplace prior to the Title II order, we anticipate the returning mobile broadband internet access to its original classification of a private mobile service ... is likely to substantially benefit the wireless marketplace and consumers and have few, if any, policy disadvantages. The historical success, wasn't that due to, like, demand? You need to provide studies and stuff. You can't just make stuff up, okay? A light touch regulatory framework, eliminating the Internet Conduct Standard. This standard allows the Commission to prohibit practices that it determines unreasonably interfere with or unreasonably disadvantage the ability of consumers to read the Internet content, services, and applications of their choosing, or of online content, applications, and service providers to access consumers. This is to prohibit practices that harm consumers. Oh, okay, yeah. I like that. You shouldn't be able to break your own rules to harm America. I'm with you so far. We propose eliminating this Internet Conduct Standard. What? Do the standard and its implementing factors provide carriers with adequate notice of what they are and are not allowed to do? I don't know. This is a valid question. I do not know if the internet providers are given adequate notice of what they are and are not allowed to do. Seems like better defined regulations and everything like that would solve this, right? It's probably more complicated than I'm making it seem, but just tell them what they can't do. Does the standard benefit consumers in any way, and if so, how? Isn't it like right there in the Isn't it right there in the line? Isn't that enough? I don't know, maybe I'm missing something. We believe that eliminating the Internet Conduct Standard will promote network investment and service-related innovation by eliminating the uncertainty caused by vague and undefined regulation. Again, all of your facts are kind of arguing for more well-defined regulation and rules than the abolishment. Quotes, in the Title II order, despite virtually no quantifiable evidence of consumer harm, the Commission nevertheless determined that it needed bright-line rules banning 3 specific practices by providers of both fixed and mobile broadband internet access service: blocking, throttling, and paid prioritization. Prior to 2015, many large internet service providers voluntarily abided by the 2010 no blocking rule in the absence of a regulatory obligation to do so. That's nice. Would they, voluntarily abided by it, but can you prove that? And more importantly, will they continue to abide by it if it gets inconvenient for them? When is throttling harmful to consumers? Really? Okay. Well, when I pay for something and I don't get it when it's promised. Duh. I have another note. Just the no blocking rule has to be active with the no throttling rule because, well, makes it a pretty easy workaround to not block people but just slow everything to a crawl, effectively blocking it. So, yeah. The ban on paid prioritization did not exist prior to the Title II order, and even then the record evidence confirmed that no such rule was needed since several large internet providers made it clear that they did not engage in paid prioritization and had no plans to do so. Plans change. In 5 years, what's the internet going to look like? I don't know. It may be in their best interest, but not the public's best interest, to start doing that. This is a reasonable safeguard to do it in the future. If you made it clear that you're not going to do it, then, I mean, you're following the law and everything's cool. It shouldn't affect you, but why do you want to get rid of it then? Could allowing paid prioritization give internet service providers a supplemental revenue stream that would enable them to offer lower-priced broadband internet access to end users? I'm sorry for being cynical, but would they really do that? Or not just keep the extra money and do nothing else? What seems more likely? Could allowing paid prioritization enable certain critical information, such as consumers' healthcare vital signs that are being monitored remotely, to be transmitted more efficiently and reliably? Allowing paid prioritization enable critical information like healthcare vital signs that are being monitored remotely to be transmitted more efficiently. You did not think this example through all the way. Is suggesting that as a positive for paid prioritization, the ISP could charge more money for life and death services. Okay, moving on. Regarding disclosure requirements, does the full and accurate disclosure of service plan information to consumers carry with it most of the benefits of the rule? Yes. How is full and accurate information bad? To the extent we keep or modify any of the existing rules, we see comment on whether mobile broadband should be treated differently from fixed broadband. Like, I don't know the exact physical or technical differences, but in regards to following the rules of what you can and cannot be able to do, yeah, they should be treated the same, right? They wanted a cost-benefit analysis. Okay. That seems okay. We particularly see comments that attempt to quantify the benefits rather than merely suggest the existence of benefits without any indication of their magnitude. We also ask commenters to particularly highlight benefits where actual misconduct has been observed. I'm sorry, but I have to ask the same thing of you. This needs to provide actual quantified benefits. So we're in Appendix B. Consequently, we estimate that the majority of broadband internet access service provider firms are small entities. Where do you live that this is the case? Are you talking like just by the numbers or the ones that are actually competing with each other? Okay, statement of the chairman. Within months of conferring this new authority upon itself, the FCC met the enemy. Consumer-friendly free data programs offered by several companies. Despite the then leadership of the agency having deemed some of these programs highly innovative and competitive, the FCC began investigating them. Okay, I'm confused. some of them were good, but that means that some of them were bad. And investigating them, does that mean that you stopped all of them? Were they all? You need an example. God, you're not citing sources in the most critical points of your document. It's so hard to believe this. I'm sorry. Without proof, I can't believe you. Dissenting statement of Commissioner Clyburn. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I had to reread this. Bold statements, important, critical statements are backed up with citations, facts, proof. It sounded like someone who knew what they were talking about. I don't mean to say that you don't know what you're talking about, but this seemed far more researched, far more professional. This notice of proposed rulemaking contains a hollow theory of trickle-down internet economics, suggesting that if we just remove enough regulations from your broadband provider, they will automatically improve your service, pass along discounts from those speculative savings, deploy more infrastructure with haste, and treat edge providers fairly. Personally, I've had to deal with Comcast, Verizon, and AT&T for my internet in the past. I cannot for the life of me remember a time when I was satisfied. There was always a problem. Always. Different problems with different companies. I've been overcharged, I've been lied to, I've had my services cut for no reason given. I find it difficult to understand that anyone would believe that giving these companies more money would magically make them cut their prices. Okay, I like this one. Unless I missed it, and I would welcome a correction if I am in error, there was no FCC staff economist or technologist consulted during the drafting of this item. You didn't... What? You're making bold claims about economy and technology, and you didn't... So it wasn't just me. Here's another example that's given. If Netflix wishes to reach Comcast's broadband customers, it cannot avoid going through Comcast. If Comcast begins imposing a toll for access to its customers, Netflix must make the decision to either pay the toll or forego accessing Comcast's millions of broadband customers. Even if the endgame of this proceeding is to adopt open internet rules, a proposition which I seriously doubt, this gives broadband providers a loophole big enough to drive a truck through. Yeah, I didn't think it would be the actual blocking, but the threat of blocking that they could use. Here's what's interesting. A source is cited. This very thing happened. Sources. Proof of what they're saying. The only factual question about the effects of the 2015 Open Internet Order that the majority keeps trying to drive home is their assertion that it has harmed investment. But the NPRM presents at most 1/3 of the economic picture of the market. But the only econometric analysis that the majority cites for support clearly states that it is, quote, inappropriate to use investment as a policy objective. And again, cites the source. And I read the source, and it does indeed say that. So someone working at the FCC actually knows what they're talking about, can cite sources, prove things that they are talking about, and is absolutely as confused as I am. So this actually doesn't make any sense. The NPRM trots out numerous anecdotes of harmed investment, but even these are of questionable value. For example, Whisper, a wireless ISP that filed for stay of the 2015 Open Internet Order, stating that it planned to expand its network, but the Commission's reclassification decision had forced Whisper to put those plans on hold. But just 1 month later, Whisper decided to purchase another broadband provider. And then a year ago, they bought another provider. This was actually my only concern when reading this. They brought up that smaller providers couldn't handle all the new regulations. Right here, it It's very clear that they could. So the claim that this harms smaller internet service providers is false. What should be instructive is that the Title II framework the FCC adopted for broadband in 2015 was actually less intrusive than the one that was applied to mobile voice in the early 1990s. Now, we all know how much of a bust that wireless industry has been, right? Users almost never specify physical points to and by which their communication should be routed, nor should they. It would be like ordering a package from Amazon and telling the USPS what warehouse you would like your package to originate from and what intermediate depots along the way you would like your package to terminate. The genius of the Telecommunications Act of 1986 is that definitions permit abstraction. So yeah, the act that it already states in the regulations that this isn't an issue. However, this proposal is frightening in its disregard for the actual experiences of consumers. How else could the majority suggest that basic transparency to consumers be more burdensome than it's worth? There's also a statement of Commissioner O'Reilly. There's really nothing to comment on it other than he apparently watches Dancing with the Stars.